Picture this. You're watching a show in English with the subtitles off. You understand everything. You feel great. You think, yes, my English is actually really good. And then the next day, a real native speaker talks to you. Same language, same words, and it sounds completely different. Like someone pressed a button and changed the speed to 1.5 times. And suddenly, you understand nothing. And you stand there smiling, nodding, pretending. While internally you're thinking, what is happening? I understood the show perfectly yesterday. Why does this person sound like they're speaking another language entirely? If this has happened to you, and I know it has, this episode is going to explain something that nobody ever told you. Something that has a name, something that is completely normal, and something that has a very specific solution. Welcome to Fluency with Vivi. I'm Vivi, and this is Robert.
Hey everyone, I'm Robert, and I want to say something before we start. If you've ever felt betrayed by your own English comprehension, like it works perfectly in controlled situations and completely collapses in real ones, you are not imagining things, and you are definitely not alone.
Betrayed. That is exactly the word. Okay, I need to tell you about the most humiliating 30 seconds of my professional life.
Already looking forward to this.
So, I was in an online meeting, international team, 3 Americans, 1 British person, 1 Canadian. And it was going well. I could follow the conversation. I was understanding the main points. I even contributed a few times. I was feeling confident.
Oh no, confidence.
Exactly. Never feel confident before the meeting is over. So, near the end of the meeting, the American woman, the one who speaks the fastest, turns to me directly and says something. And I catch about 3 words. Something, something, something before EOD. Something, something, can you handle that?
And you said,
I said absolutely. With full eye contact, zero hesitation, 100% fake confidence.
ha,
V. And she said great, and the meeting ended. And I spent the next 20 minutes going through my notes, asking a colleague what was discussed, piecing together what on earth I had just agreed to handle before end of day.
and what had you agreed to?
Something completely manageable that I could have done easily. But the point is, I had no idea what I said yes to. I just heard, can you handle that? And I said yes, because it sounded like a yes-shaped question.
The yes-shaped question.
That is my new technical term for when you say yes because the sentence ended with a rising tone and everyone is looking at you.
Ha. And this exact experience, is what today's episode is really about. Because you understood the meeting, you followed the conversation, but when one specific person spoke at full natural speed, comprehension collapsed completely, and that gap between understanding controlled English and understanding real natural English, that gap has a very specific explanation.
Okay, tell everyone what is actually happening.
So let me start with something that surprises a lot of people. When native speakers talk to each other in casual conversation, they are not speaking the same English that is in textbooks, or in language learning podcasts, or in carefully produced content. They are speaking something completely different. And I don't mean vocabulary or grammar, I mean the actual sounds coming out of their mouths.
What do you mean the actual sounds?
In natural connected speech, which is what native speakers use with each other, sounds change, words blend together, syllables disappear, letters that are clearly pronounced in isolation completely vanish in conversation.
Wait, sounds just disappear.
Constantly. And your brain, if it's been trained on clear, carefully pronounced English, has no map for these sounds. So it hears something that sounds almost like the English it knows, but not quite. And that gap between what it expects and what it hears creates the blur, the speed sensation.
So when I think someone is speaking too fast, they're not actually speaking too fast.
Usually no, they're speaking at a completely normal speed for a native speaker, but they're using a code, connected speech, that you were never taught to decode. And when you can't decode it, your brain falls behind. And falling behind creates the sensation of speed.
Oh, so it's not a speed problem, it's a decoding problem.
Exactly. And here's what makes this so frustrating. You can have excellent vocabulary, you can have solid grammar, You can understand every single word in isolation and still completely lose native speakers in real conversation. Because connected speech is a separate skill that nobody teaches explicitly.
The invisible skill.
The invisible skill, the one nobody mentions, the one that explains why you can understand a podcast but not a phone call, why you can follow a movie but not your colleague's casual conversation, why English from a textbook and English from a real mouth feel like two completely different things.
And this is the revelation I want everyone to hear right now. The reason native speakers sound too fast is not because you're bad at English. It's because nobody taught you how English actually sounds when real people use it.
That is the whole truth of it.
Nobody taught me this for years. I was learning English from recordings where people speak clearly and slowly. And then I walked into real life, and real life sounded like static.
And you assumed the problem was your level.
I always assumed the problem was my level. I thought, I just need more vocabulary. I just need more grammar. I just need more time. And none of those things address the actual problem. Okay, let's make this even more specific, because I think people need to hear the actual sounds they're missing. Robert, give me examples. What does connected speech actually sound like?
Okay, so let me give you some very common examples. First, word blending. When two words meet in natural speech, they often blend into one. Did you becomes didja. Want to becomes wanna. Going to becomes gonna. Have to becomes hafta.
Wait, did you eat? Sounds like did ya eat?
In casual natural speech, yes, completely normal. Every native speaker says this. It's not sloppy. It's just how connected speech works.
I had no idea did ya was did you. I thought it was some separate word I didn't know.
Ah, this is exactly what happens. You hear didja, and your brain goes, I don't know this word. Error. System down. Meanwhile, a native speaker hears didja, and their brain says, did you? No effort required.
Because they grew up hearing it.
Because their brain learned to decode connected speech through thousands of hours of natural exposure. Your brain learned to decode careful, separated speech. And when the input is different from what your brain is trained for.
The gap, the blur, the speed sensation.
Exactly. Second example. Sound reduction. In natural speech, the word and often becomes just n. You and I sounds like you and I. Black and white sounds like black and white. The and essentially disappears.
And if I'm listening for the full word and,
It's already gone. You missed it. And now you're half a second behind. And in real conversation, half a second behind means you've missed the next word too.
it cascades.
It cascades immediately. Third example. Intrusion. Sometimes a sound appears between two words that doesn't exist in either word. I ate can sound like I yate. She asked can sound like she asked. Native speakers do this automatically and unconsciously.
So there are sounds that exist that aren't in any dictionary.
They're not in any dictionary because they're not words. They're natural sound flow between words, and if your ear has never been trained to expect them, they sound like noise, like something you missed.
This is making me feel so much better and so much worse simultaneously.
Ha! That's the honest reaction.
Better because, oh, so there's a reason. Worse because, wait, there are invisible sounds everywhere.
In natural, fast speech, yes. But here's the thing. Once you know they exist, your ear starts finding them. The brain is extraordinarily good at pattern recognition. Give it enough exposure to connected speech, and it recalibrates. It learns the new code.
So this is fixable.
This is absolutely fixable, and that's where our strategies come in.
Strategy 1, I'm naming this one ear training first.
Ear training first. So the most important thing you can do is expose your ear specifically to natural connected speech, not to carefully produced learning content. Because carefully produced content teaches you the wrong version of the sounds.
What do you mean the wrong version?
When content is made for English learners, even good content, the speakers often unconsciously slow down and separate their words more clearly. It's helpful for understanding, but it trains your ear to expect a version of English that native speakers don't actually use with each other.
So I've been training my ear on content that isn't representative of real speech.
The equivalent of learning to drive only in empty parking lots. You can drive, but the moment you hit real traffic, everything is different and faster and more chaotic than anything you practiced in.
So, what kind of content trains the ear properly?
Real conversations between native speakers about topics they actually care about. Unscripted podcasts, reality shows, friends talking casually on camera, The Late Show, commentators talking during live sports. Anything where no one is performing for a language learner. Anything where the English is completely unself-conscious,
Even if I only understand 60% at first,
especially if you only understand 60% at first, because that 40% you're missing. That's connected speech. That's exactly what your ear needs to learn to hear. Don't change the content because it's too fast. Stay with it. Your ear will calibrate.
strategy 2, shadow and copy.
This is my favorite strategy for connected speech specifically. Shadowing means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say simultaneously, or just slightly behind, trying to match not just the words but the exact sounds and rhythm.
So you're not repeating isolated words, you're copying the flow.
Exactly. And when you copy the flow, something interesting happens. Your mouth starts producing the same connected sounds. Wanna, gonna, didja. And once your mouth can produce them, your ear starts recognizing them much more easily.
Because your brain connects the production to the reception.
Your brain goes, oh, I know this sound. I make this sound. And suddenly the blur becomes clear. Shadowing trains both ends simultaneously.
How do you actually do it?
Find a short clip, 30 to 60 seconds, of a native speaker talking naturally. Listen once completely, then play it again and speak along, trying to match what you hear as closely as possible. Not the written words, the actual sounds. Do this every day for 5 to 10 minutes, and specifically choose content that feels slightly too fast for you right now. That discomfort is exactly where the learning is.
Strategy 3, phrase chunks, not single words.
This one reframes how you listen. Instead of listening for the individual words, which is what most learners unconsciously do, you train yourself to listen for chunks of meaning, phrases as single units.
Because in connected speech, the individual word boundaries are blurred anyway.
Are. Exactly. I don't know isn't 3 words in natural speech. It's one chunk that sounds like, I don't know. Do you want to is one chunk that sounds like do you wanna. Your brain doesn't need to find each word. It just needs to recognize the chunk as a meaning unit.
IV. So instead of listening for do, space, you, space, want, space, to, I learned to hear dia wanna as its own single sound that means something.
And once that chunk is in your brain as a unit, you hear it instantly. No decoding required, just recognition.
V, like how I recognize a friend's voice in a crowd without analyzing every frequency of sound.
Are perfect. Pattern recognition, not analysis. And you build this library of chunks through, again, massive exposure to natural connected speech. Every natural English conversation you listen to is adding chunks to your brain's library, even when you don't consciously notice it.
V, even when you only understand 60%.
Are the 40% you're absorbing without understanding is still building the library, still training the pattern recognition. The brain works even when you're not sure it is.
V, before we close, I want to say something that I think is really important, because I spent a long time blaming myself for this. I thought, I just need to study harder. I just need more vocabulary. And the truth is, vocabulary and grammar have almost nothing to do with connected speech comprehension. They're different skills.
Are completely different systems.
V, and the fix isn't more studying. The fix is more listening to the right thing, which is, for most people, completely free, immediately accessible, and actually enjoyable if you choose content you love.
The barrier isn't your intelligence. It isn't your English level. It's your exposure. And exposure is something you can choose today.
V, today, right now, before this episode ends.
And one more thing I want to say. The speed will slow down, not because native speakers will slow down, they won't, but because your brain will learn the code. And once you know the code, the speed disappears. It just sounds like English.
V, it just sounds like English. That's the moment. That's what we're working toward. V. Okay, here is your challenge this week. I want you to find 5 minutes of a native speaker talking naturally. Not to you, not for learners, just talking to another native speaker. A podcast, a YouTube video, a show, anything real and unscripted. And I want you to listen without subtitles. And when you don't understand something, don't stop, don't rewind, just stay with it. But notice what happens in your brain. Notice the sounds that blur. Notice the sounds that start to separate as your ear adjusts. And then come tell us in the comments, in English, one sentence, what you listened to this week. V. If this episode finally explains something that has been confusing you for a long time, please hit the like button. It helps more people find us. Subscribe so you don't miss next week. V, I'm Vivi.
R. And I'm Robert.
V, this is Fluency with Vivi. Train your ear, learn the code. The speed will disappear. See you next week.
R. Bye, everyone.
V, bye.